All right, good morning. I'm down here in North Carolina at my parents' house in the mountains. My name is Joe McMurray,
And I'm Aaron Sefchick.
and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Nick Lee. He was one of my co-students. What do you call it? Classmate at George Mason. He's a classical guitarist. And hey, Nick.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And you calling in from Northern Virginia, right?
Yep, I'm at here over here in Centerville, just
Okay.
hanging out.
Not too far from Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so Nick, you were working on your master's degree in
Actually,
classical
undergrad.
undergrad. Okay, so
Yeah.
you started at VCU, right?
I did go to VCU, but I didn't study music there. I was
Mm-hmm.
active in like the local music scene, but
Okay.
wasn't studying music. I think I was like, I don't know, communications and then
Okay.
advertising. I had no idea what I wanted to do, so.
Mhm. And then you just realized that guitar was the most important thing, and
Oh yeah, yeah. Played in a lot of bands down there, folk punk and
mm-hmm.
like bluegrass actually too. Did a
Wow.
little bit of mandolin, but yeah, man, music was just it's just number one. So I decided to move up here and get you know serious about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And how did you decide that you wanted to do classical guitar?
Um, Well, so like I said, I was doing a lot of folk stuff, finger style.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that was a good transition. I met an amazing teacher and mentor. His name is Larry Schnitzler,
Mm-hmm.
and he sort of opened up the world of classical guitar to me, and I fell in love, and I'm still playing it,
Yeah.
and having a lot of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember getting to see you play at one of the student recitals on campus, and I was like, oh man, this guy is so good. And it was such a different, I was always with the jazz players, and we didn't
I,
interact a whole lot with the classical guitarists. It was like
I
two totally different groups.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that exact performance. It was a departmental, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
playing a piece called "On Malvina"
Mm-hmm.
by Johann Kepler-Maritz, and I
Uh-huh.
remember talking to you afterwards, and you were like, "Man, I wish that song never ended."
Yeah, it's such a cool different style of music from what I've spent most of my time studying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, out of a lot of the classical instruments, classical guitar sort of delves into jazz a little bit. It's a lot, I guess, more Latin stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because, there's a lot of repertoire that comes out of Brazil
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other South American countries, and there's a lot of transcriptions for solo guitar of like Jobim
Mm-hmm.
and some older. So I don't know if you'd consider it like jazz, maybe traditional stuff, but some other Portuguese stuff, Garoto. Remember the
Mm-hmm.
guy I showed you way back when? It's a Brazilian guitarist.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'll
so
have to
I
look it
feel
back
like
up.
yeah, I feel like there's connections to be made there. It's pretty cool, because the repertoire is just, it's a little bit different from
Mm-hmm.
your standard classical, instruments.
Yeah.
Um,
And how much of that repertoire is Spanish versus other Western European and South American, like you were saying?
yeah, I feel like a decent amount, that's a big chunk of the, standard rep is going to be Spanish stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, Albanese, Granados. Um, and these are guys that typically wrote for the piano, but it was just so guitar centric that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people transcribed it for the guitar.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and not to say that uh, classical guitarists don't do like Bach and Mozart and some of the other composers that people typically think of when they think of classical music.
Right.
Hmm.
But yeah, but it's really cool that we have all this other repertoire that's, kind of a niche thing, but is heavily rooted in Spain and South America and stuff. So yeah.
Hmm. Well, man, that's awesome. I actually had yesterday. I got out my Christopher Parkening guitar method to just run through it and try
Nice.
to play a little classical guitar to warm up for the lesson.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's one of my go-to methods.
Yeah, it's a great book. I don't feel like I can play classical guitar, but I feel like I learned a lot from going through that method at least once or twice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's cool.
So when I was in Spain, I actually saw a lot more flamenco guitar than
Hmm.
I think traditional classical guitar. How
Hmm.
much overlap is there with that? Can you play flamenco, or is that just a totally separate
Uh,
genre?
so there is some overlap. Some of the like really basic flamenco techniques, like rasgado, where you're
Hmm.
sort of flicking or dragging your nails across the string.
Mm.
That's used a decent amount.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I feel like flamenco is it's really its own thing.
Hmm.
It's just the style of it. It's like, I really enjoy a lot of that stuff. Um, but yeah, it is a more of a folksier, very percussive, style of music.
Hmm.
And but I feel like, yeah, not too much goes into playing classical guitar. I guess, yeah, so there was this big, thing in, I want to say when Andrés Segovia was alive,
Hmm.
where he was trying to, get the guitar taken more seriously as a classical instrument. Because, yeah, when my teacher was in college age, he couldn't take guitar. He couldn't study it at college because that just wasn't a thing in the
Right.
60s or yeah, I want to say the late 60s. Um, so where was it going with this? So
But
yeah, Andres Segovia was he was trying to, have it be taken more seriously in the classical world. So I guess he kind of, I guess, ignored some of the more like folk elements of the guitar because I guess that was, sort of frowned on upon. Um, so yeah, so there's a little bit of dissonance there, unfortunately. But I mean, that was his like life goal, trying to get it taken seriously. And I mean, I can
it
study
succeeded.
guitar now, so yeah, so
Yeah.
he definitely succeeded.
Well, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so and yeah, there's a decent amount of like, I guess, think like I guess more folk elements that get ignored. Um, just because, yeah, it was this whole thing of trying to get it taken seriously. So,
Wow.
yeah.
It sounds so like when you're putting different types of music, some are respectable and some aren't. It sounds so like snobby on the musician's parts.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, a little
I mean, not saying
bit.
anything bad about the modern classical guitarists, but at
No,
that
no, no, no,
time,
not
for
at
people to
all.
just frown on the guitar because it didn't.
Well, yeah, and that was the whole thing. It was guitar was always more of like a heavily, folk
Yeah.
instrument, and I mean, for lack of a better word, is for like, lower class people,
Hmm.
and and yeah, so it's sort of a struggle to have it be accepted, and I've definitely, um, been sort of like in different institutions, been sort of like, oh, nobody talks about guitar at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and there's a reason for that, it's sort of a different, and going back to like, like Latin music is
Hmm.
very, it's what makes for good Latin music is sort of different from what makes for good, traditional European classical music, where Latin music is just so, rhythmically um, focused on, which is awesome. I love it,
Hmm.
and so yeah. So I feel like some of that stuff gets ignored when you're just talking about, very generic. This is classical music, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's nice to be playing some of this like sort of niche stuff, and spreading the word.
Yeah. Well, how are you spreading the word? I know you teach.
Yeah.
Do you have the opportunity to play
Yeah.
classical music out and about and get
So
paid for
actually,
it, or?
yeah. So there's definitely that. Recently, I want to say a couple months ago,
Mm.
um, I did sort of a lecture recital thing
Hmm.
through this program called Ollie, which is it's run through Mason.
Okay.
Dr. Ina, she's a pianist. She runs this sort of program, or she's in charge of it now, that
Hmm.
reaches out to, I guess, what does it stand for? I don't remember, but it's something Lifelong Learning Institute.
Okay.
And I got to go and, play a couple of pieces and talk about, the lesser known sort of guitar composers and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I got to talk about the music
Hmm.
and spread the gospel a little bit. And it was really cool because we got a lot of positive feedback. People were emailing, trying to build Spotify playlists and stuff
Oh,
like that.
wow.
So yeah, it was really neat to play for such an appreciative crowd.
Hmm.
Um,
That's cool.
there's a decent amount of gigs in my experience. A lot of the stuff I do is accompaniment. There's a decent amount of music written for guitar and choir.
Hmm.
So I've done a couple of those over at the Strathmore
Oh,
Music
wow.
Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, played with the children's choir there.
That's in Silver
Um,
Spring.
yeah.
Strathmore. Okay. The big one.
Yeah. It was really cool. The stage there is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, so getting to do that is a lot of fun. Weddings, people
Yeah.
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
guitar at weddings.
Of course.
Yeah. I love playing weddings. It's so fun. My favorite part is, and I'm sure you guys have played a ton of weddings. My favorite part
No,
is,
I've got my first one coming up,
oh
so
really?
I wanted to ask you some questions about repertoire.
Yeah, so no. Well, so my favorite part about playing the wedding is usually you're playing the procession while the wedding party walks down.
Hmm.
Right.
And you have no idea how long it's going to take them to
Yeah.
Right.
walk down the aisle. So you have to be ready at any time to end the song, even if you're like
Hmm.
halfway through, the B section or something, and it
Yeah.
literally makes no sense to end the song there. You got
Right.
to come up with a cadence and that makes sense within the framework of the song and
Uh-huh.
end it right then and there. And so there is, some improvisation
Yeah.
involved, and that's my favorite part when I'm just like, ooh, like I got to do this and make it sound not bad,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
You
Um,
just 2-5 your way out.
yeah, exactly.
You in a different key.
uh, Yeah. One time I accidentally ended one of them with the deceptive cadence. I don't know if that's
Hmm.
like bad luck on
Right.
that wedding, but
Right.
it just sounded good, so I did it.
Nice.
Um,
Get all
but
done.
You should explain to the Fret Buzz listeners what a deceptive cadence is.
it's a sneaky way to end a song where you think it's gonna end. You say you're in a major key, you think it's gonna end happy, but then you sneak
Hmm.
in a minor chord, and it's like, ooh, that's mysterious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I always have my students whenever they do that. I was like, when you play that minor chord and you trick everyone, you have to raise your eyebrows. Like, but but yeah. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot of weddings. Yeah, and those are a ton of fun. Trying to think sort of
And
what other.
how do you get those weddings? Are you getting those gigs through just people that you know, your own marketing or referrals? George
Yeah,
Mason.
typically through people I know or referrals.
Hmm.
So yeah, and that's the one thing I love about playing music is, the community is just so tight and everyone's, hitting up everyone. And just last night I met this guy who is up in New York. He's a bassist playing with
Hmm.
some really cool folks, and we exchanged numbers and stuff. So and I wasn't even going. It was a friend's like birthday thing. So
Right.
it's really sweet to meet people active on the scene, like all around the country and the world and stuff, and everyone's super nice and trying to help each other out because they know the struggle. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So a decent amount of referrals as well, and just networking in general.
Yeah.
So luckily I mean, luckily for me, there isn't like too many classical guitarists, and I'm sure there's a decent amount. But I guess it's relatively easy to get your name out there if if you're working a decent amount.
Right.
Hmm.
So, because it's sort of a niche thing, like I was saying earlier, um, and people are always looking for that guitar sound.
Yeah, I
So
mean, if I don't know a whole lot of classical guitarists, so if I was to hear somebody say they wanted that, like I think at some point somebody's probably asked me to play classical repertoire, and I've been like, that's not really my thing.
Right.
I'll do more jazz for you, and now I would refer them to you, I guess is what
oh.
I'm getting at. If they, could get you to come down, depends on where I'm living at the time or where
My
they are.
Yeah.
my question is why do you think that is?
I feel like, there's a lot of attraction to, electric guitar. There's a lot of attraction to, other instruments. And I feel like, again, it was so, well, with electric guitar, that was like, it got like heavily popularized,
Right.
uh, when it was invented and stuff, and people were just picking it up, and it had a large like sort of grassroots,
Mm.
build up, which is awesome. And then classical guitar is just sort of fell, I guess, to the wayside a little bit
Right.
when that because again, there's this. Since it is a classical instrument, there's always going to be this air of like, oh yes, like classical music, um, and so yeah, I just feel like it got a little less popular. Uh, and classical music in general when pop styles started showing up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I feel like there's a heavy, at least in this area, in the Northern Virginia area, there's
Right.
a heavy presence in middle school, high school, which is really cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say I know that all of my students they take a guitar class in middle
Uh-huh.
school, high school, and they all have that classical approach, which is really
Yeah.
cool because then they come into me and they've got this base foundation. And it's
Hmm.
just it's really nice. So I can
Yeah.
see it. It's happening within the school systems, which is really
Uh-huh.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But at the same time, I think like across the country,
Mm,
that's sort of like not a common thing
no.
for public schools to have. I mean, like, yeah, we're really lucky to be in an area where the school systems are so great
Yes.
that the arts, for the most part do get funded. Um, but yeah, so I think it's not that big of an outreach to folks, and
Right.
it
Hmm.
and it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to pick up. It takes a certain amount of discipline, and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
not to generalize or anything, but like I feel like people are looking for like an easier fix, so yeah, so I feel like that's one thing that, at least with my students, whenever I try and turn certain students onto it, and it's like, oh, this is so hard.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yeah, that's why it's fun. If
Yeah.
it was easy, nobody would do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Good.
Exactly right. And I
Mhm.
with YouTube, I'm seeing like people like Anna McKee and
mhm.
Mhm.
Rodrigo and Gabriela. You know,
Yeah.
I see people coming in with like, "Ooh, how do they do that?" And they kind of
Uh-huh.
like dig in a little
Ye-
bit more, and that kind of helps people
Yeah.
kind of get in a little bit. So it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
no, definitely. It's that whole thing with like being able to sound like your own band,
Yeah.
but just doing it by yourself. And that's part of the attraction for me to classical guitar is that, you're your own bassist, you're your
Mhm.
own accompanist, you're playing the melody too. And
So
yeah, it's
you don't need all the electronics that
yeah, yeah.
I need.
Well, kind of. Classical guitar is real quiet.
Oh,
Like
you need amplification, but you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
need.
Not depending on the setting, but yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't need power to make
Looping
it sound.
pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
I love looping pad. I listened to a lot of Andrew Bird and like he's this violinist
mhm.
who creates these insanely intricate loops and so I used to mess around with those all the
That's
Yeah.
time.
cool.
I
Yeah.
definitely find that sometimes when I have my rig and I'm out performing, I'm so comfortable and it's fun, but then as soon as I get like if I'm somewhere where somebody's got an acoustic guitar and they're like, "Play something." None of my normal repertoire that I would play out really works. And that's
Uh-huh.
why in the past year or so I've really been trying to build up. I've been learning a lot of Tommy Emmanuel stuff and
Nice.
I really like acoustic guitar and Celtic music and like a
Mm,
lot of fingerstyle stuff that still not my strong point. I don't want to like go out and gig like that. I'll do like
Uh-huh.
mini sets at retirement homes like that, but
hmm
it's like without the electronics, I feel like I'm not able to really show like give people my show. And it's
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah.
I just wish that I could do it all by myself.
Yeah, I love
But
that your little setup though. I remember seeing pictures of like everything packed so neatly on your little trolley thing, and
yeah, yeah.
it was you were playing some show outside on the boardwalk or something. I was
Yeah.
like, that's sweet. Yeah, man. Then that's one thing, that's one thing that I feel like, as a classical guitarist, I don't get as much into is like the gear and stuff. And so, yeah, like I would love to, know more about that just as a musician in general.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I do listen to a lot of like a lot of, electric guitar stuff
Mhm.
as well. So.
Do you even own an electric guitar?
I do, actually. I do.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a piece of crap, but I just really like the color,
Uh-huh.
so I got it. It's like this seafoam sort of green,
Oh,
cool.
wow.
and yeah, yeah. Because me and John Longbottom were
Mhm.
doing like an electric sort of duet thing called Hawaiian Brothers Forever. Because we both figured out that we're like related like to Hawaii. My
Yeah.
grandmother was a native there, and he was born there. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we gotta play off of that. And so we were doing like surf stuff.
Did you do
I was
the
still
slack key
using
tunings?
no, 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 no. We were just, well, so the thing with Hawaiian Brothers Forever was we were never going to rehearse ever, and we were just going to make things up on the spot, like all the time. And we had to do that because we went on tour. So I'm in this folk band called Abby Rashid and the Sunji
Mhm.
Collective, and we went on tour over the summer. And there kept on being like little mishaps at all the shows where we had to, go grab a mic stand out of the van or like something like that. And so me and John would just like play these, 20-minute impromptu sets and just make everything up. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And
But
he
so I
was
do
on guitar there? Because he's
what?
a John was playing guitar there.
Yeah, so John's been playing a lot of more guitar recently.
He was one of our for the listeners out there, John Longbottom he's an incredible saxophone player. That's what he was in the jazz saxophone program at Mason while we were there, but he's also a pretty good guitarist.
Oh yeah. But yeah.
So
And
you got your electric guitar and you can there's so many gear shows and so many people talk about gear on the internet and
oh yeah.
it's an expensive, addictive
Mhm.
thing, but
Yeah.
I mean, you've got one beautiful instrument, right? That you just
Yeah.
like you've got the wood matters so much and everything
Oh
about
yeah.
it. You
Oh
can
yeah.
spend more money on your one instrument than we can spend on our tons of gear.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. I've spoken to, several luthiers just about how, because I just play the things. I really should know more about how they're made and stuff. But yeah, it's really interesting whenever I'm, talking to a luthier about how intricate, these instruments are and
Hmm.
how much goes into it, and it's really neat. I got my guitar. It's a Kenny Hill, which is an American made guitar company. I think they they actually make them in China, but they finish them here in the States. But
Okay.
yeah, so I got that up in Baltimore actually from this guy, Michael Kirkpatrick runs a little shop out of his basement up there, and it was yeah, it was just he was so knowledgeable and like he just had this like closet just lined with cases of all these
Wow.
different guitars. Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I'd never, you know, been somewhere like that. And yeah, he was super helpful. I went in, at a certain price point, and um, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll try this guitar that was like 500 to 1,000 more than I want to spend. And he was like, sure, do it. And I fell in love. And I was like,
Yep.
oh, uh-oh. And it was funny. He told me this will always stick with me. I don't know why. I just liked how he said it. But he was like, you won't miss the money. And I was like, you know what? I won't miss the money. Like, like I never do. Like
Yeah.
it's money well spent. Um,
And what
so
what are you looking for when you look for a classical guitar?
for me, it's two main things. So first of all, like sound.
Right.
So and there's different people have different preferences. I like a mellower sort of bassier sound. I
Mhm.
actually the first string instrument I played was the electric bass. So I'm always attracted to that very mellow, smoothness. So sound, and then the second thing is feeling. A lot of different guitars have just a different feel to it. My current teacher, Matt Tricula, he he has like the guitar. It's by like a really famous maker, Rodriguez. And it sounds amazing, but it is just so hard to play. The action is really up high, so you gotta squeeze, but it projects like no other.
Hmm.
And it's just for me, I got like tiny hands. And so like and it's really hard sometimes I deal with a lot of tension issues
Mm,
of just pressing down too hard that I'm working through currently. And so yeah, so I love the sound of that, but I would never get one because it's just too dang hard to play.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so mainly sound and then feel. And so yeah, those are the two aspects that I'm looking for. Um,
And then when it comes to strings, I know
mhm.
there's a bunch of different kinds of nylon acoustical classical strings. What kind of
Yeah.
strings do you use and
So
why?
I use these they're made by a company called Savarez. I believe they're French. They're called Cantiga basses.
Okay.
And like New Cristal Cantiga basses. And they are just again, it's just got this mellow, this richness to it that
Mhm.
I'm attracted to. Some strings, it's feel too. Some are thicker than others, and yeah, I like the thinner sort of strings. I forget what gauge exactly they are,
Mm.
but yeah, it's mainly I'm listening for a particular sound, and I've gone through a couple. I used to play on Savara's alliances, and trying to think, there was a couple. I think Oasis made a pair that I didn't really like. They were too thick. Um, but yeah, I'm loving the ones I'm using now. And yeah, it's just that rich bass tone. I don't know. Is it that, and that shouldn't be the most important part of what you're playing, but like I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it connects with you, and that's what matters, really.
yeah, exactly. So
And so just as important as the strings and the instrument itself, I would think, are your nails as a classical guitarist, right?
oh yeah. I mean, there's a whole argument between playing with nails and without nails and stuff,
Hmm.
but yeah, but the main thing is it just affects your tone so much, and it's the kind of thing where you don't really notice it at first, but when you just dig deeper and deeper, you're like, wow, like just these minuscule, adjustments make such a difference in the sound. Um,
Adjustments in how you file the nails or
yeah,
in where you
yeah.
actually pluck on
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah,
nail.
yeah, the point of contact and stuff like that. I still am trying to get used to like how I shape my nails. My original teacher, Larry Schnitzler, he had like, all these handwritten notes and like dates and stuff and like I don't know, like angle measurements and I don't
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Um, but yeah, so yeah, still getting used to that. I got pretty thick nails,
Hmm.
so I actually use a whetstone, like a
Okay.
knife sharpener to file them down, and then I finish it off with like 5M Triumphite polishing paper, I think.
Right.
So yeah, and it's just super smooth. But yeah, so nails definitely, add a whole nother, quality of changing your tone.
Hmm.
Um,
Can we
it's
see your nails?
yeah. So right now they're a little long. So I got my
There it is.
thumbnail right
Oh
here.
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, here's the
Oh
index,
yeah.
middle ring,
Yeah, it's
and then
very. I didn't realize it was shaved at an
yeah.
angle like
So
that. There's no point.
yeah, so you kind of so the I guess the correct technique or whatever is that the string actually touches your the flesh of your finger first,
Hmm.
then makes contact about, right, I don't know if you could see that, but right where my thumbnail is touching, and then it just slides off,
Bring it
and
up a little bit.
yeah, so yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
right about there, and then it'll just slide off. Um, And so, yeah, my nails are kind of long. I haven't shaped them in a couple of days, and they grow really fast. So,
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
yeah, so I'm constantly like doing stuff with it. But yeah, it's just one thing that I've learned to do by feel,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and just what feels right. And that's the thing. It's so hard to teach because everyone's nails are just so different that there's no one, you can't really say this is the one right way to do it. Um, Actually, so I did this master class with this an amazing, one of the greats, this Italian guy, Oscar Gilia.
Hmm.
He's a student at Segovia. It's like my old teacher Larry.
Wow.
Um, but and he was showing me this picture of this guy who I forget where he might be an Italian guy too. I forget his name, but he shapes his nails like the opposite way people do. So like you
Huh.
see how it's angled like that.
Yeah.
His is angled the other way. Yeah, and so there's no, and that's kind of that's something I impress upon my students a lot is that there's no one right way to
Right.
do anything, This is just, the style that I'm showing you and, the most efficient, quote unquote, way to do these things.
So for
Um,
somebody out there who wanted to get more into classical guitar, is it acceptable to can you still play the repertoire just with no nails? Like
Oh
just
yeah,
normal short nails that you don't have to spend time working on.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, there were a ton of, there's actually, I wish I could remember this exact story, but like, there's been, classical composers, from Spain who didn't have, classical guitarists who didn't grow nails. There's two different schools where one of them were like, no, you don't need nails, and the others were like, yes, you do. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's totally acceptable. In fact, I would say most of my students, they're a decent amount are like middle school, high school age,
Hmm.
doing sports and stuff like that, and it's just like not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so I don't press it upon them at all. Um, but yeah, so it's totally, yeah, totally a thing to play without nails. Even some my colleagues at Mason, they didn't have nails or
Hmm.
couldn't grow them. So, and they still had, they had ways, workarounds and stuff to get the tone that they wanted without nails. So.
Yeah. I sometimes use a thumb pick to get a better
I was just gonna ask about
sound.
thumb picks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So like what do people use that sometimes if they can't grow their nails?
Well,
Is
not
that
so
what you're
much,
gonna ask?
not growing your nails, but just the thumb pick in general and how it's used versus not using it. Like, what's the percentage? You know what I mean? Like,
So I would say for the most part, no, people don't.
right.
However, they do make products like that for when you break your nail, and
Hmm.
it's a sort of a different style. I forget what exactly it's called, but it's a lot thicker than a normal thumb pick. And it wraps around your thumb, kind of like a ring.
Hmm.
And yeah, someone in the studio now is using one because he broke his nail. That happens a lot. Um,
Wow.
people break their nails. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah, people use ping pong balls and like all sorts of other things to like if something goes wrong. I remember maybe last semester or the semester before, I just kept on slamming my ring fingernail into things and just shattering it. And
Oh,
I would have to go to I would have to go to like nail salons and stuff and well, I'm laughing
get the
because
fake nails.
well, like I don't know why. I just freaked out. 'Cause I had like a recital or there's something coming up, and I was like freaking out because like night before, or maybe not the night before, maybe 2 nights before I had to
Hmm.
play. I had broken my ring fingernail, and
Oh my
so I was
gosh.
just such a state of mania that I clipped my pinky nail off and I just glued it onto my ring finger and
Okay.
then shaved it. And it looked like this freakishly like Frankenstein sort of thing. And
Oh my gosh.
I went into the nail salon the next day and I was like, why did I do this? And I went in and it was still glued on. I had to explain, like, hey, this is the whole situation. Like, the guy was just looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Like, why did you do that? He started laughing. But they had to take it off and put a fake nail on and stuff. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
That's great.
it was pretty hilarious. Definitely not one of my proudest moments, but it happens.
It was worth it. That was one of the funniest things I've ever heard about nails.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh man. So so like I said, I've been playing a lot more finger style guitar, but on a steel string
Hmm.
guitar.
Hmm.
And recently, like I've been ramping it up, doing more and more of it. And I finally have gotten through the part where my fingers hurt on my picking hand.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to get these calluses building up on those fingers that are now catching the strings at like sometimes harder, and it's messing up my tone. Like I don't have a consistent
Uh-huh.
callus on the tips of my fingers. Like it's bigger in one spot. And then the other day that ripped off, which
Oh,
during a performance, and I had to like
Oh,
pull it off and like try to
uh,
like smooth it off, because
yeah, yeah,
I still, even with my electric stuff, I still hybrid pick a lot of my jazz, and so it like
yeah.
it's like the callus catches. So
Yes,
does
so
that happen to you?
that doesn't happen on my right hand because typically it's only on the flesh for, not that much time before it hits the nail. But on my
Mm-hmm.
left hand, it's the same sort of issue. Just going on the left hand is, yeah, on the sides of my fingers, I'll get calluses, like huge ones, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
sort of start to peel off and then catch the string.
Mm-hmm.
So and this is something that I guess Segovia would do, is you would polish your left hand fingers too, and I guess in your case, your right hand where the callus is you
Uh-huh.
actually polish that up so it's smooth,
Huh.
and that's helped a lot. It just takes away that edge that catches the strings, and it
Yeah.
just slides right on.
So
Um,
you're not polishing off the whole callus. You're just keeping
the
the edge
yeah
of it nice.
yeah, so it doesn't catch anything. Because yeah, I run into that all the time on the side of my index finger, and
Yeah.
sometimes on the side of my pinky. I feel like those are the two main spots where I'm getting pretty gnarly calluses.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
Man, it's a constant struggle. It hurt
uh,
before. It would be too tender to play, and now it's the opposite problem.
yeah.
I can't feel those fingers anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a weird it's like a superpower. But
I can touch a hot stove with the fingers of my
yeah.
left hand and feel nothing.
I've definitely done that before. Um, but yeah. So yeah, it's always weird to think about like, all these skills that you're building as a musician, like how like the physical aspect of it, how untranslatable that is to anything in life. It's like, oh, I can do all these weird things with my hands, like
Yeah.
that's never gonna help me outside of being a musician.
Hmm.
But I mean, going along that, a lot of the mental things, though, playing music is just such a great, it's so relatable to like so many things, and just like helps you out a lot, which is one of the reasons, people push it in the public school
Well,
system.
it's
Yeah.
that personal discipline to be able to sit down and focus on something and to work at it day after
Oh yeah.
day. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But even with like I talk about in my lessons, critical thinking a lot, like actually thinking about what you're playing, like pattern recognition, and stuff like that, that just, makes digesting music a little
Mhm.
easier,
Mm.
and then just having that throughout the rest of your life, being able to think critically about, what like certain things you're doing. Um, and yeah, just being able to understand patterns, helps me study for like other unmusical related things. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of crossover.
So I wanna hone in on the music part here. For our listeners who really do want to potentially play more classical guitar, where would you recommend starting? What are there method books? We mentioned the Christopher Parkening, but are
Hmm.
there books that you would recommend? Do you recommend 100% finding a teacher? Are there online resources? Is there certain repertoire they should learn? Are there certain um, players they should listen to? I know I just threw a lot at you,
Yeah.
but those are kind of some of the big things I wanted to get at here.
Yeah. So I would definitely, if you starting out, definitely, invest in a method book. Um, More so, I constantly have this struggle of, should I be emphasizing, note reading, or
Hmm.
should I not? And it's case by case, whether if they're younger and, they're more open to it, then yeah, I always push that. But yeah, a lot of older students who just, like are just in so many other things, have so many other things going on, like learning musical notation is like just a whole nother thing. So I don't stress it as much. Um,
And you
because
let
yeah,
them read tab, like play classical
yeah,
music
yeah,
from
or do
tab.
do do things by ear. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there are talented individuals who just pick up stuff by ear like that. I feel like guitar is a very, learn by ear, more so than a lot of other instruments. Um, but yeah, so more so for the technique, I
Hmm.
would pick up a method book. There is no like perfect, one perfect technique book. I like the Christopher Parkening method book a
Hmm.
lot.
And it's only notated in treble clef.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no
So
tab or anything.
there's no tablature.
Yeah.
So, but more so for the pages where he's talking about how to do certain things.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the thing. And then there, yeah, I'm trying to think of books that also have tablature in them because most of the stuff I just create myself.
All right.
Hmm.
Um,
I know for me,
but
I use I don't, and I'm gonna butcher this name. I know I am. Mauro Giuliani.
yeah,
Yeah.
Giuliani, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's got the 101 or however many
Yeah,
exercises.
120 right
Yeah.
hand
Yeah.
Ah.
studies.
And
Those,
it's free on the internet. Just put in PDF, and it's great because it just uses C and B diminished. So it's a C for one measure and a B diminished for the next measure. And all 120. You just kind of go through these exercises, and it's great.
yeah, it works the right hand out. I use it for a lot of my students. It's just a, standby. That's one of the ones that everybody uses.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's relatively easy shapes, and
Yep.
it's just all different patterns to get your right hand working. Because that's one of the tricky things about, playing classical guitar is all, what notes you're playing
Mhm.
Hmm.
all controlled with one hand. All the most of the rhythmic stuff is all controlled with your other hand, besides like slurs and some other things. But yeah, so getting those rhythms down. And sometimes you get to a level where you're doing polyrhythms like all in one hand,
Hmm.
Right.
and it just doesn't sit well. So you gotta really work at it.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, that's a great standby.
That's
Um,
Mauro Giuliani.
yeah, Giuliani.
Mhm.
I would tell you how to spell it, but there's too many I's and L's, and I forget. I can't think off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's a great one. Scott Tennant is he's a guy. He played in this group called the LAGQ, the Los Angeles Guitar Quartet. But
Hmm.
he's written a couple of methods. One of them's it's my favorite title. It's called Pumping Nylon. It's got this big bicep on the front cover,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah,
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
yeah, and he keeps it a little bit lighter. It's not as serious as some the Christopher Parkening method or stuff like that. But it's got a lot of great technique building stuff.
Oh, I see it here. I found it on the internet here.
Yeah, pumping
Pumping
nylon.
nylon. It does. It really does have a bicep.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
But he's a great guy. And a killer player. But yeah, and the way he breaks down things is very it's well written out, and it's not super boring.
Hmm.
Um, which is as a teacher, you always it's like you want to nerd out about like a lot of things, but you have to spin it in such a way that like this is the coolest thing in the world,
Yeah.
or else you'll lose your students' interest. Um,
Hmm.
but
So,
so yeah, so
do you
I
think
would,
that a serious classical guitar student needs to take lessons with you or another teacher? Or can you get
uh,
to where you want to go through a book?
So for me personally, I just like having a teacher has been like the greatest thing in the entire world. Like, and I guess it's case by case because I guess I wish there wasn't, but I guess there's not so great teachers out there
Yeah.
that make or break it for people. But I would highly recommend getting a teacher and just having someone to sit down with and break these concepts down, and for me like that was just that was the game changer. It's like I really want to get into this. Like I didn't know, that all of this intricacies existed. Um, and not that the books don't delve into it, but I don't know. I lucked out because I had such a great teacher, um, and like seeing it is much different than reading about it or yeah, or watching a video. Well, I guess watching a video is kind of seeing it. So
Yeah,
like yeah,
it's more personalized, and you can ask
yeah,
questions, and
yeah.
it's having a teacher is by far, I mean, it's untouchable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
The
So
feedback
yeah.
on what you're doing,
Mm,
you could think you're following the directions in a book, and maybe you're not doing it right though. And having a
Mm.
teacher can fix that quickly.
yeah.
Yeah, just right then and there. Yeah, so I'd highly recommend getting a teacher. Um,
What
so yeah.
what do you think about early repertoire and people to listen to?
Oh,
Classical guitarists.
so I guess for early repertoire, so there's actually books um created by this there's a I guess it's a school or something. I don't know. It's called the Royal Conservatory, and they
Hmm.
publish um, repertoire books for a lot of instruments, and they have one for the guitar, and they're sort of leveled. And
Hmm.
there's a preparatory sort of book for that. That's got a lot of great beginner pieces in it.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess a lot of what people go to first. There's this one piece called Romanza,
Yep.
um, which is in E minor using a lot of open strings, and you're playing a melody on the top string.
Hmm.
The major when it goes to major, it's a little tricky, but there's versions where it's just the minor version.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a great one to start out with. There's some more modern stuff with Andrew York. There's a piece called Snowflight that's like kind of a lot of arpeggios moving around, and so there's that. There's this Cuban guy, a guitar player and composer named Leo Brower, and he
Okay.
wrote a bunch of etudes that are they're easy-ish to play, but they're
Hmm.
very like very deep, very like modern harmonies and very crunchy at points, and they're really cool. I dig them a lot.
Mm,
Yeah.
Um, and then there's a lot of, simple etudes and stuff written out by your go-to classical, like we're talking like actual class, because you know how classical is an umbrella term for like
yeah.
all these different periods and stuff.
Hmm.
The go-to like classical guys are Sor and Giuliani, have a lot of easy pieces in like C or A minor.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so as far as people to listen to, um, it's yeah, it's sort of a an interesting thing because if we were talking like like I don't know other genres of music, you would name like you could name bands or like particular songs and stuff, whereas in like and I feel like it's the same way in sort of jazz that it is in like classical, but you name players,
Yeah. Yeah.
um so some of my favorite players and the go-to ones, obviously Andrés Segovia.
Hmm.
um yeah, so he just has a very particular style about him that people either hate or they love it, and and I love it. So I listen to him a lot. It's funny because a lot of his students, and including my teacher, obviously they have their own unique spin, but like they're Segovianisms in their playing, and I remember I was in. Do you remember Dr. Smith, Glenn Smith? He taught
Barely.
Music Theory 4 and is in charge of the Healing Arts Ensemble, and that
I didn't really know him.
okay, but I
Never
took
took his
theory.
class.
Okay. I took like orchestration, I think, with him, and he was
Hmm.
playing this flute and guitar piece, and I was listening to the guitarist, and I was like, "Is that Larry Snitzler, my teacher?" And he was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, how did you know?" And I was like, "Because there are certain things in there that sound like Segovia," and Larry studied with Segovia for a while, so
Hmm.
like
That's
it's just
awesome.
like, okay, yeah. So Segovia would be a guy to check out. Um, there's a lot of British players who are fantastic. There's actually a guy. His name is John Williams,
Hmm.
not the guy who the film score
Right.
Hmm.
composer, but classical guitar player John Williams. He's known as having like just really tight technique.
Hmm.
Um, and so he's great. There's Julian Bream is another. Uh, guitarist, British guitarist who's just I just love the way he plays. Um, uh, actually, so there's not a lot of concertos written for the guitar, but a decently famous guy, composer, British composer Benjamin Britten. He actually wrote a guitar concerto, and I think he wrote it for Julian Bream at the time, and so that's pretty cool. But Julian Bream, wanted to check out. Roland Diens. So Roland
Okay.
Diens is a French guitarist. He passed away a couple years ago, I think. He was good friends with my teacher Larry Snitzler, but he is like he's one of my favorite guitarists. He's just such a showman, and like it just sucks you in. And he he dabbles across the board, he plays a lot of he actually arranges for classical guitar, like jazz standards. He
Hmm.
did like a Night in Tunisia,
Oh wow.
Take the A Train, some Jobim stuff. Saudage, I think. Or is that? Or no, that's a different thing. That's his own original composition. But yeah, so some stuff by Jobim, because he loves like Brazilian stuff. But Roland Diaz, he is
Roland Diens.
yeah, fantastic player. Heavy into improvisation, and will
Hmm.
like a lot of the times open up his concerts with just some improvisatory stuff, and it's always amazing. Like whenever like you can improvise a bass melody and accompaniment, like that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and have it like I don't know, just like watch it evolve, just on the spot. It's really cool. But he's a fantastic player, and one of my favorites.
Hmm.
And even playing his stuff, he's got a lot of like modern classical music that is just so amazing and well thought out and interesting. And yeah, I've played a piece by him, Songe Capricorn, which is this really out there, dreamy sort of. It's got a sort of a drone going on. This you're playing this beat. It's got a weird tuning too. I think the I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not even gonna go into it. But yeah, it's got this alternate tuning, and it's just the most you're that's one of the ones that just has a ton of polyrhythms in it. You're playing this like B moving bass note and then hitting harmonics at the same time, and it's so intricate and it sounds so dreamy and awesome.
Hmm.
But
Do you get
yeah.
into a lot of alternate tunings in classical guitar?
Uh, Uh, yeah, I would say a fair amount. There's a lot of, this is like as basic as it gets with alternate tuning, but there's a lot of stuff in drop D.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount of Renaissance stuff that has the your G string tuned to an F sharp to because I guess the lute was sort of tuned like that.
Hmm.
So there's a decent amount of like stuff by John Doland and just a lot of Renaissance stuff. that's tuned that way. Um, there's this one piece, Koyon Baba by Dominicone. I think he's from somewhere in Eastern Europe. I want to say like Turkey or something like that. But it's just like it's this uh, um, is an open C minor or C sharp minor, maybe C an open C minor tuning,
Hmm.
and it's just so wacky and like well at least notated wise because everything he so what he did was he has it written as if it wasn't in
Oh,
that tuning.
oh my.
So that you're well no, it helps because so you're playing you're not playing the notes that are written on like you're playing the same frets and stuff, but you're not actually playing those notes. So if you were to look at that music, it would make no sense.
Right.
But and then he has it written out in that tuning as well, which is really hard to read because it just everything you know about the fretboard has changed because you're in open
Hmm.
C minor tuning. But it's a really cool piece. I think it's got like yeah, it's called Koyon Baba, and it's like I don't know, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Along the
some
same lines,
pieces.
do you use the capo very much?
Not too much. There are some. I've run into it at least once in an arrangement for guitar and choir where I had to use a capo.
Mm.
Going back to people to listen to, David Russell. He's an amazing. He's from I think technically he was born in Spain, but I think he's like Irish or Scottish or something.
Yeah, David Russell doesn't sound
Yeah,
very
yeah.
Spanish.
But he is amazing. But he's got this book of Celtic pieces for solo guitar,
Ah,
and those are all the some of those have capos written in uh, to use. So yeah, I run into it. It's not. I have seen it before,
mhm.
but I wouldn't say it's super common to use a capo.
I mean, it's like that in jazz. We would never use a
Hmm.
capo.
Yeah,
You just play, everything's, you can move the chords across the fretboard.
yeah,
We don't
yeah. And that's
need,
the
we don't
thing
play many
about.
open strings.
Oh, really? Yeah. See, that's okay. There's one big difference is typically with classical guitar, you want to take advantage of those open strings
Yeah,
while you're playing, and that allows you to do, multiple things at once, because your finger is only so big and you
yeah.
can't, and that's part of the fun thing, at least, in my limited experience with, arranging for the guitar is the technical like limitations of the fretboard of your hand and how can you do the stuff um with those limitations so yeah so it's a lot of fun but yeah going back to the whole open string thing there's a lot of pieces a lot of the guitar centric keys are ones revolving around your open strings.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
A lot of pedal tones and
uh,
like that. Do you compose?
um, like I wish I had more time to, so not really as of now. Um, I have recently, not in the classical guitar sort of sense,
Mm,
but yeah, because I've always been attracted to like chords and how they resolve and
right.
like where they can go and stuff like that. So I do a lot of like chordal stuff and then put melodies on top of it.
Hmm.
Um, it's just yeah, so that's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I don't have like time to, flesh out like ideas that I have. I just, record it on my phone like a
Right.
50-second thing and then I'll
Yeah.
come back to it later when I have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I have for my recital that's coming up. Um, yeah, if people want to come to that, it's December 8th at
Hmm.
4 p.m. On in the Choral Room at George Mason, and I think it's called Delaski. But yeah, but for that, I arranged this this Japanese song called Venus by this guy Susumu Hirasawa, who does he's a pretty out there like Japanese artist. He was playing like prog rock in like the 70s and stuff, and
Oh,
I
Cool.
don't know, it was in punk bands and like did film scores, worked with a lot of animators in Japan doing film scores.
Mhm.
But this is off of one of his solo albums. I transcribed this song called Venus, and it was a ton of fun. It was very easy because a lot of it was written on guitar, but dissecting it and giving different parts to different to the first guitar, second guitar, third guitar, and how it all melded together. It was a lot of fun
very
arranging
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's Saturday, December 8th at Delaski,
yeah,
at George Mason.
yeah. It's summer 8th at 4 p.m.
It's in
Yeah,
Fairfax, Virginia.
yeah. So if anybody wants to come to that, it's open to the public. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm doing a lot of my whole thing was was I didn't want to play like traditional Western European classical music.
Hmm.
So it's going to be a lot of Latin stuff. I'm doing this Brazilian composer named Heitor Villalobos,
Okay.
and then Paraguayan guy, um, Barrios. Um, what else am I doing? I'm doing the Libertango by Piazzolla, and with a flautist, some Pujol, who's another Brazilian guy, um, and then I am doing some French stuff. I couldn't not play some Debussy, so I'm gonna do that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah, and this other guy Poulenc, um, and what else? I don't know if I'm gonna add this in, but I feel like I need to do something Spanish. So I'm probably gonna do a Granadas, one of his Spanish dances as a duet.
Okay.
Um, so yeah,
Nice.
so I'm
Well,
excited.
that's awesome. And do you have any sort of website where people can check out some of your playing or contact
Unfortunately,
you?
unfortunately not. I do a lot of stuff off of Facebook. So if you use
Hmm.
Facebook, Nick Lee, I'm on there. But yeah, I need to get into that the whole website thing. Yeah, just school is, it sucks the life out of you.
In a good
So
way.
like
In a good way.
yeah, oh, in a great way. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that since I'm a little bit older, a lot of my, gigging friends and colleagues, they've all got their websites and, business cards and stuff, and I need to get on that. Um, but yeah.
Well, you've got the more important side of it covered, the actual your performance abilities and your knowledge. Yeah. Well, take it from me. I've seen him play, and it's been a little while since I moved, and yeah,
Oh,
I've really
dang.
enjoyed having you on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, maybe I'll see you soon in Virginia Beach. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll be up around Northern Virginia this Christmas time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, give me a call.
Yeah, so maybe I can trade you some jazz
Yeah,
for
yes,
classical
yes.
guitar.
Definitely, definitely. I'm
Happen.
into it.
That'd be great. So, guys, it's been great, and hope everyone has a great Sunday.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Everybody have a
Fred
good day.
Buzz signing out.
Yeah.
All
Have a
right.
good
Bye.